In this Into the Outdoors at Home edition.
We're here with Kevin, who's a part of the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. He can tell us more about advanced boating technology that could help us if we actually were to go overboard.
Well, there's all kinds of advanced technology, but some of the most basic ones to start with is exactly what you have on right now. You're wearing a very basic but critically important technology. Just wearing a PFD and having a whistle on that PFD is going to increase your chances of survival in the water in a big, big way. It won't save your life if you're not wearing it. It's the simplest technology, but it also is the most important to remember. There's all sorts of electronic technology out there that's available today as well. Where do you want me to start?
So, if one of us were to actually go overboard, what would be important technology to have?
One of the most important pieces to have, if you were offshore and you were to go overboard and get separated from your vessel, the boat that was carrying you, is a personal locator beacon. These are a radio transmitter that's received by satellites. So they'll know where you are within 200 or 300 feet, and they'll know you're in trouble. So they can give those coordinates to the Coast Guard and send a rescue boat or a helicopter to come get you. Now they also make these for boats in case the boat were to sink. Those are called EPIRBs, and those are attached to the boat, and it will automatically deploy when the boat sinks and send that same radio signal. And that's monitored around the world, so you could be halfway across the Pacific, and if your boat sank, that technology would let everybody know, and various Coast Guard agencies would start looking for you. Really important stuff to have when you're away from shore.
Okay, wait a second. I am so confused. What is the difference between an EPIRB and a PLB?
A personal locator beacon and an emergency position indicating radio beacon are very similar technologies, but one is meant to stay on you in case you go overboard, and the other stays on the boat in case it sinks. Both use satellites to signal for help. Do you remember another piece of boating technology that uses satellites? That's right, the Vhf radio.
A Vhf radio is very important to have if you're out there. So if something happens, you can call for help. The channel to be on, that's the channel to call for help on. That's what the Coast Guard monitors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all over the United States. So if you call for help there, you're going to get it.
Thanks for sharing with us. Are there any other safety items besides beacons and radios that are important safety items to have on board?
There are. There's all sorts of signaling equipment that you need to have. There's daytime signals and nighttime signals. So there's electronic ones, and again, those very basic ones. There's a big orange flag with what looks like a black exclamation point on it. You can fire flares into the air. And now there's a strobe light you can hold in your hand, and that strobe is visible for up to 10 miles. If you hold that up on your boat, everyone should know that's a boat in trouble. Now, falling overboard happens a lot of times when people bump the throttle and the engine guns forward or stops, and there's a way to prevent that from happening. Now, do you know what an ECOS is?
Yeah, that's the cord that disconnects and cuts off the motor.
That's right. It's really important to have, especially on a boat that you're not in the cabin, if you're at the helm and you're vulnerable to, if the boat were to stop suddenly, being thrown overboard. Because what that will do is it will disconnect the engine and shut it off. You're exactly right. And that's required on boats that were built 2020 and newer. And if your boat's older than that and has an ECOS switch in the throttle area, you have to use it. If you're underway, that switch, that lanyard, that ECOS cable has to be connected because it could save your life. If you're thrown overboard, that boat could circle back and run you over, and that propeller's turning awfully fast. You'd much rather have that engine shut off and be able to get back aboard. Wearing the ECOS, having a personal locator beacon, if it's a bigger boat, the EPIRB, flares, strobe lights, flags, all those things are technologies that will help keep you safe.
Now, I don't think you could carry all of these in a small vessel, such as a kayak or even a personal watercraft. So which ones are required for different types of vessels?
You're exactly right. You don't have to carry all of that equipment in these much smaller vessels. It all depends. It depends on what type of vessel it is, what type of water you're on, what conditions you expect. Requirements and should have are always two different things as well. And depending on what state you're in, there may be some additional things you need as well.